I want to challenge something you probably believe about yourself. You think your income is limited by strategy, by timing, or opportunity. But what if I told you the single most expensive thing in your life right now is how long you sit in indecision? Every day you delay a decision, you're paying a tax. And that tax is compounding against you right now, whether you see it or not. Today, I'm going to break down the key multiplier nobody talks about: decision. Decision changes your life, or decision will keep you stuck for the rest of your life. Money always follows speed. Well, how do we operate with speed? We have to decide, because your income is never limited. It's only limited by the decisions you make or don't make. And the only limitation we have are the limitations in our own mind. It's always limited by how fast you move on what you know, how fast you act. That's why we want to do it right away. And once you see the math on this, you will never unsee it, but you will never sit in indecision the same way again. Your wealth is directly correlated to your decision speed, not your intelligence, not your experience, and definitely not your potential. Everyone has potential. It's the speed you act on your decisions. Every wealthy person I've studied, and I've studied with and studied around, and I study people's models so deeply, they all have one thing in common: they decide, and they decide right away. While their reality says they shouldn't, well, it is way out of their comfort zone. They should play it safe. They should wait. They should gather more information, but they move anyway. That is the dividing line. Not smart versus not smart, fast versus slow. Between people who build generational wealth and people who die with potential still locked up inside of them. Isn't that such a tragedy? We all have so much potential, but we've got to stop overthinking. We've got to stop planning to plan. Every time you're planning a plan, you kill your dream. One dream after the next. They're all buried in the cemetery. I lived on the wrong side of that line for years. Nobody, when I was growing up, nobody sat down with me and taught me how to make decisions. Until I met a mentor who had the most impact in my life in Bob Proctor. And I remember a conversation we had. I said, "What do you think was the most important part of this philosophy you implemented?" He said, "Arash, I used to never make decisions. Once I learned the importance of decision, it changed the game." And I thought I was a good decision maker. He didn't think I was. Well, I became a great decision maker and my results changed. I would always let circumstances decide. Some of you are watching this and you're saying, "Yep, that's me." I get it. But that is a recipe for disaster. I would let my environment decide because I was just conforming. And like Earl Nightingale says, conformity is cowardice. But I was losing. And I wasn't losing just a little. I was losing badly. I was working against myself. And it didn't have to do with my desire, my potential. And it didn't have to do because I lacked information. I had plenty of information. I was studying every day, but I wasn't deciding. And all I was doing was wasting time. I was bleeding time on every decision. And time is our greatest currency. You and I today are going to be the youngest we've ever been. We have to seize the moment. And time, I promise you, that is the biggest asset we have. Not money, but time. Now, let me show you the math. I always work backwards because the results always tell me the truth. Every income increase begins with a decision. The decision to move, to launch a new product, to act on a prospect, to pivot, to raise prices, to invest, to hire, to fire. Everything is about decision. Every level you've ever reached started the moment you decided. Not when you executed, but when you decided. Transformation doesn't happen once you get the result. It happens when you decide who you're going to be. And you've got to understand, decision means death of everything opposite. I want to say that one more time. I want you to brain tattoo this. The difference between wishing and hoping and deciding is when you decide, it's death of everything opposite of that decision. And every delay between knowing and deciding, you lost that opportunity forever. Because money responds to motion. Money responds to speed. And money responds to decision. And motion begins with decisions. Somebody right now has decided to change their life. While you're thinking, will this work for me? Somebody decided and they're off to the races. While you're processing, opportunity is decaying. While you're waiting for the perfect time, someone less talented than you is deciding and they're winning. I want that to hit. I want you to really understand this. You're either deciding to do something or not to do it. You're either deciding to change your life or deciding to be the same. And the people winning, it's not because they're better, it's because they decide to bet on themselves. When I bet on myself, everything in my life changed. I remember, and I've told this story so many times, but it's worth repeating. I had changed my life at this point, and I'm sitting with my wife in Portofino. She's actually getting ready in the shower, and I'm looking out, and this idea came in my mind and said, what was the one thing that really took you from failing to succeeding at the highest level? And it was like a lightning strike. It was the day you decided to bet on yourself. It wasn't the day I got the results. It was the day that I acted well before I was ready. And you've got to understand this. At that time, I was $150,000 in debt, had a foreclosure sticker on my garage, and it was 3 weeks before my wedding. Everything said, play it safe. But my back was so against the wall, and I was so sick and tired of being sick and tired, and that's when I decided. I want you to decide right now to bet on yourself, because money always follows speed. Speed always follows decision. When you delay raising your prices for 6 months, that's 6 months of undercharging, gone. But that's 6 months of taking your identity way backwards. You hesitated to replace an underperformer for 3 months. 3 months of poor productivity. How much is that costing you? It's gone. You avoided a hard conversation for a year. You cost yourself self-respect. We do hard better here. Not just externally, but internally. Because every avoided decision reinforces a weak identity. And weak identities produce weak income. Indecision compounds. Fast operators compress time. That is the key trick. If you want to create quantum leaps, you've got to decide faster. Slow operators leak revenue, and most people don't even see the leak. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. When you hesitate, your mind says, I'm being strategic, I'm being careful, I need more information. But that's not what's actually happening. It's your ego trying to keep you exactly where you are. Fear of being wrong, fear of regret, fear of judgment, fear of loss. You dress it up as I'm making a logical decision. Logic sucks. Logic is what kills dreams. Now, don't you think you've been logical up to this point? Isn't it a time to bet on yourself? Because most of the time, when you are letting logic control you, all it is fear holding you down. I used to sit on decisions when I was losing for weeks, researching, talking it through, needing approval from people that I trusted, and I called it smart. It wasn't smart. I was scared. And then I studied Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And Napoleon Hill said, be very careful who you get your advice from. Would you trade places with them? If not, don't ask their opinion. And I took that. My mentor, Bob Proctor, used to tell me, the only person you get advice from is people who are already performing the results you want to perform. Lock that in. Scared doesn't produce wealth. It produces more of the same. My mentor told me, until you decide, nothing is going to happen. Nothing. And boy, was he right. Those are the rules of success. Strategic thinking has a deadline. Ego protection is open-ended. If you keep researching what you already know the answer to, you're not thinking. All you're doing is hiding and letting your old program keep making decisions for you. You're not letting your dream decide for you. Every decision I want you to make it fast. But you're going to know if it's the right decision. And I'm going to give you a simple framework. If it's going to grow you, it's a yes. If it's going to contract you, it's a no. Now let's talk about the trap. Mid six figures, 250 to 500,000, 100,000. See, a lot of people get stuck at that 100,000 mark. But if you can make 100,000, if you can earn 200, 250, 500, you're capable of earning million, 2 million. It's all in awareness. But that's the danger zone because you're doing better than most. Because now you're like, what if I lose that? What if you lose? You've lost before. But what if you win? I want you to expect to win in everything you're doing. Never entertain losing. When you were starting out, you decided fast. Think about something you accomplished. You wanted it so badly, it was always on your mind. but nothing moved until you decided. We always want to be hungry and humble. We want to be relentless about our vision. See, when you went after it, it didn't matter if you lost, but now every decision you're overthinking. Overthinking is a recipe for failure. Every decision that feels heavy, you hesitate on investments. You delay hard conversations. You overanalyze risk. And that's where people get stuck for years. Seven-figure operators, they don't have better information. They have a higher emotional tolerance for uncertainty. They're willing to behave before they're ready. They're willing to lose in order to win. And they're willing to be wrong quickly. They're willing to look foolish. They're willing to fall on their face for 6 months if it compresses 3 years into one. That's the difference. And that difference, it's worth millions. And I'm not just saying 1 million, I'm talking about millions upon millions of dollars. So how do you speed up? There's 4 parts. Part 1, shorten your decision windows. I want you to make decisions right away. The moment you take longer than an hour to make a decision, it's too long. Major decisions get 24 hours maximum. Minor decisions, right away. No sleeping on it. Here's the thing I always tell our clients. They say, well, I want to sleep on it because that's how I've always made decisions. I say, do you think it's going to be easier when you wake up? And they go, well, that's how I've always made it. Well, if you want different results, you've got to be different. That means you've got to make decisions different. But here's the great thing about decisions. You'll always know the truth because the truth always resonates with the essence of who you are. Now get that locked in. It always resonates with the essence of who you are. You're going to know if it's not wise for you. You're going to know, but it's not going to come from fear. It's going to come from inspiration. And we want to get rid of weekend thinking. I'm going to think about it over the weekend. All you're doing is letting your old paradigm control you. It's about deciding and move. The quality difference between a right-away decision and a 48-hour decision and a 2-week decision, you're just losing. You are costing yourself. And you're costing yourself time, and time compounds. Now, part 2, detach your ego from the outcome. Your ego, we've got to kill off. Your ego is always going to compare you to others. It's always going to try to keep you safe. A bad decision is always correctable. A slow identity is not. The wealthy brain treats decision like experiments, not verdicts. Refinement beats perfection. Perfection is ego protection. That's all it is. Now, part 3, every decision comes from your future self. If my future self would say yes, I say yes. If my future self would say no, I say no. Right now, you're saying yes to a lot of decisions you should be saying no to, and you're saying no to a lot of decisions you're saying yes to because of one thing, comfort zone. See, I want you to start thinking like this. If I were already $1 million operator, what would I decide right now? How fast would I move? What would I stop tolerating? Then move from that identity, not emotionally, neutrally, intentionally. Intention changes the game. Intention is the frequency that you're coming from the outcome already being done. Now that's a game changer. Part 4, track your decision speed. What gets measured gets improved. How long did that email sit? That proposal, that investment. Decision speed is a muscle. Train it. Repetition over and over again. Speed over and over again. No negotiation. Now understand this. Decisiveness has a cost. People are going to call you impulsive. They're going to call you reckless because your speed exposes their limitations. Your speed exposes their hesitation. Indecision equals weakness. Decisiveness signals certainty. And certainty wins. The man or woman that's most certain always wins. In sales, in leadership, in every relationship that matters. Confidence is sexy. Confidence is contagious. Confidence is when you're emotionally free. Money flows towards decisive people. So let me ask you directly, how many decisions are you sitting on right now? A hiring, a firing, start going after the business of your dreams, wanting to increase your income, an investment, a conversation. We're deciding all day long, but are you really deciding? Are you really making decisions that are in harmony with the life you want to create? Every day you delay, you reinforce the old you, a slower identity. And slower identities produce weak income. This is the math. Today, somebody decided to change their life. Somebody said, I'm done playing it safe. I'm done settling. I'm done tolerating. I want that person to be you right now. One decision changed my life. One decision will change your life. You're literally one decision away from changing your life, and that decision is to bet on yourself. Not someday, right now. Winners decide first, losers wait for proof. Decision speed is the multiplier underneath everything else. Increase it and you increase your income ceiling. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment right now. What is one decision you've been sitting on that you're going to make today? Name it, own it, act on it right away. Because the moment you declare it, you collapse the decision window to zero. And that is the first rep of your new speed, of your future self. Now, if this hit different, subscribe. I highly recommend you watch this video on decision because I will tell you this, nothing happens until you decide. This channel is not about motivation. I want to change your life. It's an operating system upgrade for how you think, how you decide, and produce wealth. Now listen, a system without frameworks is just a concept. So I built something for you. It's called the Wealth Roadmap. It takes everything we covered, the decision windows, the ego detachment, the future self questions, the speed tracking, and maps it to a daily blueprint. The link is in the description below. Go grab it while this is still burning. Don't let the old decision speed pull you back. And let me bring this home. You walked into this video sitting on decisions. Now you see the cost. You see the compounding tax. You see the trap, and you have the system. Shorten the window, detach your ego, decide from your future self, track your speed. That's transformation. That's a new operating system. And here's your test. There is a decision you've been sitting on. Make it right now. Do it now, do it now, do it now. It will change your life. The decision always creates the readiness. The movement always creates the clarity. And the speed always creates the wealth. But I want to congratulate everyone still watching this video because you made it to the end. That tells me you're not just here to gather information, you're ready to change. I'll see you on the next video.